This video is presented by MyBookie.ag. What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for UFC on ESPN 8 happening this Saturday and the final card until we go on another week break. And the card is actually better than last week. Just solid matchups. And we are going to start with my favorite fight on the card, and that is Song Yadong versus Marlon Vera. There were some complications earlier that made it look like Song Yadong was not going to be able to fight because of visa issues, and they're potentially going to have Uriah Faber jump in for a lightweight fight against Marlon Vera. But for some reason, Song Yadong versus Marlon Vera is going to be at featherweight, not their original bantamweight division. And the interesting thing is, they both have fought at featherweight before. In fact, Marlon Vera had one fight at featherweight in the UFC against Ning Guan Yu, and he had a catchweight fight at 140 against Brad Pickett, whereas Song Yadong has had 8 fights in the featherweight division. Nearly half of his entire professional career was actually in the featherweight division, and he's fought at lightweight before he made his UFC debut. Song Yadong is going to have more experience fighting at a higher weight class. And looking at the ways he won in the featherweight division, almost all of them were by finish. So we do know that Song Yadong still does carry power up to featherweight, whereas Marlon Vera's featherweight bout went to a decision, and he rarely ever wins by decision. Most of his wins are by finish, which tells you that probably Marlon Vera's power is not going to be the same going up to featherweight. But ultimately, Song Yadong is extremely explosive. He's very confident in his ability to explode from a distance and land his shots. Specifically, he's really good at ducking under punches as he's exploding at you and throwing his own behind them. This is why you see him all the time stay on the outside kicking range. Right, he kind of sits there, he lingers out there because he's so confident that he can explode into close range before you can get anything off on him, right? And we saw that specifically when he fought Alejandro Perez, right? He's like a human rocket, and with that kind of momentum, he has one-shot knockout power, way more powerful than Marlon Vera. Although Marlon Vera seems to be more mobile, he moves around a lot and he kicks a lot, something that Song Yadong doesn't do as much. He's a bit shy with his hands, though. Marlon Vera, when he's moving backwards, which is 100% is going to happen here, Vera does not let his hands go sometimes. He kind of just stays on the defense and moves around, and he likes to start everything off with kicks first. Because he's so used to doing that, he might allow Song Yadong to get off first and potentially land harder first, to the point where Vera can't even retaliate. So the thing I don't know is how Song Yadong is going to deal with the kicks, because he hasn't really fought many kickers. A lot of guys he's fought have tried to counter him, wrestle with him, box with him, not a lot of kickers. But then again, the fact that Marlon Vera is not that great moving backwards is only going to put Song Yadong at more of an advantage. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Song Yadong, and I'm actually going to go by a decision. I think Marlon Vera is very tough. He has a really good chin. Ultimately, he's going to play defense a bit too much. Even though he's on a 5-win streak, none of the guys he's fought have this kind of style that John Lineker brought, right? Look when he fought John Lineker. He was very shy the entire fight, hesitant the entire fight, just moving away. Song Yadong is going to pressure Vera more than anybody has done before. It will be interesting if Vera starts to incorporate more of a counterboxing game instead of pulling back on punches, because if you miss, if you don't land it accurately, Yadong is going to be in the range where he can answer with one of his hard straight right hands. So if Vera can use that mobility and just move his entire body back away from Yadong and try to counter that way, just keep moving back and counter. Don't put 100% into the counter punches. Just throw them out there just to tag Yadong, because he's already going to run into the punches, so you don't need to put that much power. That alone can make Marlon Vera actually win this fight, but he has never done that kind of thing. So I'm going to go with Song Yadong. I'm going to go by decision. And just like on the betting odds, they have Song Yadong as a moderate favorite, actually, not giving many chances to Marlon Vera. And then we go to Dan Ige welcoming Edson Barboza to the featherweight division. And you heard that right, a lot of people probably don't know, Barboza's going down to featherweight. He was a shredded 155er, but he happened to make the weight, 145.5, and he looked pretty thin. I don't know how that's going to help him, really, because we saw how Michael Johnson looked at featherweight. All of his power went away. He was very thin, and people were able to outmuscle him. Barboza had that problem at lightweight, where he was full. He's fighting Dan Ige, who trains with Khabib, trades at AKA, with some of the best wrestlers in the sport, and he's 100% going to use that against Barboza. So I don't think moving down, I could be wrong, but I don't think moving down for Barboza is actually going to help him, right? The faster you are in your striking, it's going to help going up divisions rather than going down where you meet people as fast as you, because the speed of Barboza was one of his biggest weapons. That's going to be diminished in this kind of fight. And he's also fighting a guy who's a better wrestler, brings the fight to him, very aggressive, and knows how to beat him because he trains with the guy that already mauled him. The thing about Dan Ige is he's extremely well-rounded. He has great wrestling, great jiu-jitsu, great top control, power in his strikes, really good boxer, has decent leg kicks, and he moves in the correct positions to cut off the opponent. Barboza, as we all know, one of the best kickers in the sport, very good at a distance, and probably one of the best fighters in the sport when he's not getting pushed back. He's very hard to deal with if you don't pressure him because his kicks start to go. They're just a bit too quick. I don't know how that's going to help him in the featherweight division. Again, like I said before, his speed is not going to have that much of a factor, and he might have less power going down the featherweight, but historically, he does have decent takedown defense. He's good at defending initial takedowns from a distance, but as Khabib showed, if you just create contact with that takedown and drive it to the cage, that's where he has trouble defending the takedowns. And I think Dan Ige can do something like that. Pressure with the jabs, shoot up against the cage, work his magic there, get it to the ground, and dominate with ground and pound, and probably superior cardio. I don't know where Barboza's cardio is going to be at featherweight as well, so it's a big X factor all around for a guy who looked like a good lightweight, good size lightweight to come down to featherweight and actually make the weight, but doesn't look in the best shape. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Dan Ige. I'm going to go by a 3rd round TKO due to ground and pound. But it is interesting that MyBookie have Dan Ige as actually a slight underdog. They do favor Edson Barboza, maybe because of his experience fighting higher level competition. But again, it's just so hard to know how Barboza is going to compete at the featherweight division. And then we go to the main event. In a fight now a lot of people are looking forward to for many reasons. Alistair Overeem is going to be taking on Walt Harris. They were scheduled before. Many times it was postponed, and we finally get to see it. The old versus the young. Very experienced Alistair Overeem with nearly 70 professional MMA fights, fighting someone who just surpassed 20. So it's a major gap in experience. Overeem has fought champions over and over again his entire career, while Walt Harris is finally fighting the big step up in competition. And that's always a hard thing to predict, how a younger guy is going to perform under these kind of bright lights. But ultimately, what we can say about Alistair Overeem is he's probably a better striker, he's more technical, he's a way better kicker, way better with the knees and elbows, and very good in the clinch. But he just does not have a chin. Does not have a chin. If he gets hit once by Walt Harris, this fight's over. And that's showed in the Jairzinho Rozenstruik fight. Overeem can beat you for about 24 minutes of the fight and lose because one punch gets through. And Walt Harris has extremely fast hands. Some of the fastest hands for a heavyweight. I mean, look at his fight against Sergey Spivak and also his last fight against Alexei Olenek. I mean, when he lets his hands go, which is the biggest criticism I had of him before those two fights, was just I knew he had the hand speed, but he just didn't let his hands go. Once he lets them fly, people are just overwhelmed by the speed, and he has great knockout power. So that alone, the form in his punches are great. He whips his punches around guards and stuff. His uppercuts are really sneaky. If he can get those punches off on Overeem and Overeem starts covering up, might get TKO'd. Overeem is a vet. He knows how to cover up on punches. He's been under that kind of fire before. I will say, again, Overeem is a more skilled and technical fighter everywhere across the board. He's way better on the ground. If he takes his fight to the ground, he should win 100%. Takedown accuracy is not that great. He's only gotten 3 takedowns in his entire UFC career. And Walt Harris has a 76% takedown defense. It's tough going that route, but if he does happen to get this to the ground and Walt Harris doesn't have the ability to just pop up because of his strength, Alistair Overeem should confidently win this fight. If it stays on the feet, that's when it gets very, very risky. Overeem does loop out those big left overhands, and if they miss, Walt Harris can come right behind them with this flurry of combinations, and Overeem will be out of there. Will Overeem's kicks get checked? Will they get caught? Will Walt Harris be able to defend them? Again, they've been preparing for each other for a pretty long time. There is more footage for Walt Harris to go by than Alistair Overeem to prepare for Walt Harris. And the fact that Harris is getting better at between every single fight makes it even harder for Overeem to really know what to do against a guy like Walt Harris. Although, the boxing seems to be the biggest thing Walt Harris goes to. He doesn't kick, he doesn't go for takedowns, he doesn't clinch up, just throws his hands from a distance and knows how to throw them very well. So that ultimately goes to my prediction for this fight. It's a tough fight to pick, it's very tough. I want to go with the streaking Walt Harris because I see a lot of talent and a lot of promise, but I don't know if this is a step up too quick against such an experienced striker, because he can absolutely get done the way Rozenstruik was getting done for 4.5 rounds. But I just don't know if he has the chin to withstand all of that punishment. You know, that's the sort of thing I see here. And Walt Harris can land one punch and it's all over. So definitely not a fight to bet on for sure. But I'm going to go with Walt Harris on this one. And MyBookie also has Walt Harris as a slight favorite. Most likely looking at his knockout power and the fact that Overeem, no matter how skilled he is these days, one punch ends him. And that pretty much gives everybody a chance against him. I think he might be able to land that one big punch. He might have a lot of motivation coming to this because of a lot of things that has been going on in his life. But hopefully he's in the right mindset and he shows to be on another level than he was in his last fight. So I'm going to go with Walt Harris. I'm going to go by a 2nd round TKO. I can absolutely be wrong on this. I can absolutely just see Overeem making him miss, catching him, and eventually TKOing him because maybe Walt Harris doesn't have the kind of chin to take a big shot from Alistair Overeem like Rozenstruik was able to do. And like I said before, if it goes to the ground, Overeem should win. I'm just going to stick with Walt Harris in this one. So this card is the last stretch of the 3-fight card week until we go on another week of no fights, which means another week of no major sports, so you can bet everybody will be watching this card on ESPN, making it a great opportunity to go and bet on the fights with MyBookie.ag. No one has better lines and more ways to win than they do, from submissions to knockouts to decisions to picking the rounds. There's so many ways to go and bet on them rather than the basic fighter pick, you know? And sometimes picking the way the fight's gonna happen or how a fighter is gonna win is way more rewarding. But there's another. If you're just someone who likes to bet a little and win a lot, you can try a parlay. By putting a lineup of fighters that you think are going to win, you can go and multiply your winnings. Just go to mybookie.ag and sign up for the deposit bonus. That's right, by signing up you get a free bonus where MyBookie will match your first deposit halfway all the way up to $1,000. That means if you deposit $100, they'll spot you $50 of free money to play with. All you gotta do is use the promo code WEASEL to activate this offer. That's promo code WEASLE and sign up with mybookie.ag today, where you bet, you win, and when you win, you get paid. Now, there are very interesting odds here. Note that almost all of them are close. There's none that are really far apart besides Claudia Gadelha versus Angela Hill. Claudia is the only fighter in the card that's over a 2-1 favorite. But one that sticks out is Matt Brown versus Miguel Beza. They're going with the young prospect. They're going with the guy to take out the vet of the game. But Matt Brown is on a 2-win streak. He didn't fight that long ago either, in December when he knocked out Ben Saunders. He's still in it. He still has power. He's still ferocious. He has great jiu-jitsu. So even if it goes on the ground with the black belt and Miguel, Matt Brown's going to be very capable there. Also, his ground and pound strikes are absolutely ferocious as well. In the clinch, he should absolutely destroy Miguel. Miguel's very wild. He throws a very looping right overhand, moving backwards and moving forward, so that's his biggest shot. Unless he's gotten better of what I've seen, Matt Brown has a lot more tools to work with, and he's also a vet of the game. And then the co-main event with Claudia. Claudia is a big favorite. I can understand if she fights the way she used to, use her wrestling, use her BJJ, Angela Hill's gonna have a lot of problems because Claudia has good power. She's very fast for the first 2 rounds, very explosive, but then she gasses out. Angela Hill has great cardio, but that's the thing, man, it's only 3 rounds, which is gonna favor Claudia. I do think she should win. A minus 220 may be a bit much, as Angela Hill is a better striker. I just don't know how Claudia's gonna fight, right? Because she's competed in fights that shocked me, where she tries to be a boxer sometimes, and that's just never the way for her to go. Stick to what she does best, and she will beat most of the fighters in this division. If it was 5 rounds, I'd probably even favor Angela Hill, but because it's 3 rounds, I'll go slightly to Claudia. Everything else I pretty much covered or I agree with. So I hope you guys enjoyed the predictions. If you did, make sure to have a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. See you guys in the next video.